And good evening, good day, good morning, good evening. On our channel, our YouTube channel, Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob. And we're having a chat here. We had one earlier this afternoon and it was quite nice. And basically, um, I was talking about how, yes, things are weird, but life is always weird, same as it ever was, right? So, first of all, don't believe a word I say, right? I'm here just to tell you a story. And the most important thing that I've experienced in my life is that the only truth there is love. And that love is this mechanism. Hey, Janie. Love is the only thing that brings forth creation, right? And so when we co create with love, we are doing something outside of the illusion of our ego, right? And, we get so distracted by the goings on of our, incidental life that we lose sight of what's really kind of important, you know. And the thing that's important is the love we feel for those all around us, um, all our relations, not just, your family, but all our relations. And when things get stressed out, in times of conflict, um, that's when you are tested, you know, to your limit, right? And when you can shed, the belief structures of the ego and focus on, you know, love, you know, and that's why, the teachings of the masters are important. The teachings of Jesus and Buddha, and all the others, and they're basically the same, you know. And all of those teachers are basically coming from the same Godhead, right? And we are part of that Godhead. We are like, we individuals are like the cells of God, right? And so that's why prayer and meditation are so important, because it brings us in connection, you know, and to the collective. And thus it enables us to deal with almost anything, right? So we are in trying times. You just have to turn on the TV and you see we're in trying times. And, no matter how crazy you thought it was, you know, that's why, I don't worry about anything because it can always be worse, right? And when things do get worse, the thing that you can take from it is that it enables you to appreciate the things in life that are good. Looking at that little, when you are with your last gasp, um, you see something beautiful. You go, oh, look at that. Right. And I've had a lot of experience, uh, especially when I was an EMT and I was in a district where um, we responded to basically three things. We were a firehouse, but, in the 3 years I was there, we responded to one fire. And as we were driving to it, it was a chicken farm. So it had a gigantic propane tank to heat the chicken coops, right? And, they had a ton of chicken poop that they were turning into, uh, fertilizers and propane. So they had a lot of combustible materials around. So we were about a mile away, and then the fire was like, roaring inferno. And when we got to about a mile in front of it, that propane tank blew up. And I mean, it was like a nuclear, boom, big mushroom cloud, right? And the chickens and they had like 50,000 chickens there. And, you know, it was like KFC all over the place and feathers and everything was, but that explosion basically burned out the big conflagration. And that was the only fire, so we showed up, about 5 minutes after the explosion. We got up top of the hill and drove into the compound, and we got out with our handheld um, extinguishers and put out the little burning this and that. But the major fire was gone, so that was the only fire we really responded to. And luckily, the people who were working there were smart enough to, once it really got going, they got out of Dodge. They just called us, and we were, showing up, and they were gone. So luckily, no one died. A lot of chickens, like I said, it was KFC all over the place. But primarily, the things we responded to were car crashes and heart attacks because there was a big oh, trailer park full of retired people, like maybe 300 or 400. And virtually every week there was one or two heart attacks up there. And we were really good about getting up there and sparking them back and getting them back to the hospital. And the other thing, but the thing we really did mostly was pull people out of really destroyed cars because 95, 90, 81, and 77, I think it was two interstates that instead of having a clover leaf, they just crossed each other. So big trucks were always running over little cars. Right? I mean, it was hamburger all over the highway. Like I said, we responded 2 to 5 times um, a week to that car, and they were terrible. Not just fender benders; they were like just whoa. So we got very good at cutting people out of cars and doing triage and getting people. Luckily, this intersection was like 8 miles to a really good hospital. So if we could get them out of the car, get them to the hospital within 40 minutes, no matter how screwed up they were, they could, they may not want to have been saved because a lot of these people lost legs and arms and faces and burns like, once gasoline gets going and it's very explosive. So we were very good at that. We were very good at containing catastrophe, right? And pulling people basically, pulling their butts out of the fire and getting the hospital. And my job, there was two of us that were EMTs, and there was a paramedic. And my job, basically, I was the guy who figured out, I did the triage thing, and I would stay with the people, and and connect to them eye to eye, while the other guys were sticking wands in them and doing all the other kind of stuff and hooking them up to stuff that our bus, all the instrumentality we had, we could tell them communicate to the hospital, so the hospital could see how the patient was. And actually, at that time, we were just getting equipment where there was TV cameras in our bus, and I mean, we had really good technology and training, and like I said, if we could get you out and get you to the hospital within 40 minutes, no matter how screwed you, we had this, if you had real bad bleeding and internal bleeding, we had these suits that we could stick you in and pump them up with air to hold you together, right? I mean, you know, for the time, this was the late 80s, 91, we had, we were the state of the art in technology and state of the art in training, because we were in this place where it was like a war zone, basically. Like I said, from 2 to 5 response. Some weeks we had 10, 12, sometimes depending on the weather and the traffic flow. And this was an area there was a lot of feeds, and so there was a lot of heavy traffic. Anyway, so the one thing in those 3 years, I probably experienced 30 deaths where I'm in the bus, I'm the guy talking to them, and they're going, because once you're in the bus and you're heading towards the hospital, the person screaming and yelling and oh, it hurts, give me more, that was a good sign. But when they didn't feel anything and they were quiet and they were, reposed, that wasn't such a good sign. And when they couldn't see you, couldn't, quite hear you. And the last thing that would go was their smell, but they keep talking. They, would just talk. They wanted to talk. And they weren't scared of dying. They were just talking. And they were talking to, their mom and their dad and all the people who had died that were on the other side. They were talking to them and other people too. It was quite interesting. I mean, and that was unable to connect to chat. Please try again later. That's happening more and more. And I think it has to do with the bandwidth that's here. So, Janie Pooh commented and Buddy commented. And then I got this little thing, unable to connect to chat. Please try again later. Oh, this afternoon, around 5 o'clock when I did it, had a good connect to chat. I had a lot of people chatting, And I don't know whether it's the bandwidth here, I don't know, whether I'm on somebody's list, but basically I'm watching all the chaos. So I've, been a student of chaos. And I lived around the world in places that were pretty chaotic. I would say newspaper photographer. I would be sent out to photograph things of that nature. And my dynamic in my photography was that I wouldn't just take people's photographs. I would get to know the people. I would talk. I would sit. Hey, how you doing? And sit down and talk to them. And once I made a connection, I said, "Do you mind if I take some photos of you? And I'll try and get you some copies so you can have some nice photos of." Anyway, so I have a lot of experience, and I've lived in big cities. I've lived in New York. I've lived in London. And I've lived in Dublin. I've lived in, Sydney, Melbourne. I've lived in, you know, near in Brazil, not the capital, but the big city there. They have two big cities. I've lived in those. And in Jamaica, so I see a lot of different cultures and how people get along, and it's um, it's a beautiful thing, and it's a disappointing thing. It's a disheartening thing, and my experience of all of that has made me realize that that's why I only have I don't believe in anything, and I only have faith in love's co-creation. Right? So that's how it is. Well, things seem to no one's commenting. There's only one person out there, so I'm gonna hang up, and it's 8:25 now. So I'm going to try again a little later. Let's say 9:30. Right? I'll try it again, and all I can say is love is the only truth, right? And the only validity of your existence is when you co-create with love. So fear, anxiety, hatred, all of those things are illusions. And there are many, hidden hands and powers that shouldn't be, and sock puppets that try to manipulate the masses through fear, anger, and hatred. Um, because it's a pretty easy thing to do, but not a deep or real thing to do. So anyway, all I can say is get carry around a hand sanitizer, wash your hands a lot, don't pick your nose or rub your eyes, and every day and every way take the piece of the earth and make it stronger, right? And pray. The Our Father and the Hail Mary, those are ancient prayers, and they really have very little to do with the branding of the, Roman Catholic Empire, right? They are prayers that connect you to love's co creation. So it's good to say them 3, 4 times a day. And if you say them in one breath, it does that thing I keep talking about, going into state, about, breathing 20% in deeper and breathing out 30% more. And when you do that, you get rid of a lot of waste products and bring in the prana into your body. So, Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb. Jesus, Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now and the hour of our death. Amen. Was in the beginning, is now, ever shall be. And in every day and every way, we take the peace of the earth and we make it stronger. And our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, as it was in the beginning, is now, ever shall be, world without amen. Father, hear our prayer. Bless us indeed. Enlarge our territory. Put your hand upon our shoulder. And Mother, keep us from evil, so we will do no harm. Aho. I love you guys. Stay in touch. I'll try this again around 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay. Love you.